All right, let's dive in. We're going to take a trip back in time, using a fantastic old text from 1906 as our guide, to explore the incredible story of how Spain came to be. It is a massive tale, full of conquest, clashing cultures, and constant change, from ancient tribes all the way to a global empire. Let's get started.
You know, our guide from 1906, Mary Platt Parmalee, just nails it with this opening line. She didn't just see Spain as a place on a map. For her, it was this grand, romantic stage for history. And its story isn't just one single narrative. It's more like layer after layer after layer of different peoples, each one leaving its own permanent mark.
And this really gets to the heart of it all. Spain's identity was forged through constant reinvention. You can literally see the layers right here. Ancient Iberia gets transformed into Roman Hispania. Then Roman Hispania gets reshaped into Gothic Spain. And that, in turn, is completely changed by the Moors into Al-Andalus. Each new group built right on top of the last one.
So, let's go all the way back to the beginning, because long before anyone called it Spain, this peninsula was, well, it was a prize. Its location, its resources, it was like a magnet for traders, for settlers, and of course, for conquerors. This really set the stage for everything that was to come. What's so amazing right from the start is just how many different people were here. You had the original Iberians. You had the super mysterious Basques, whose language is this incredible link to a forgotten past. And then the Celts, who our 1906 source calls a warlike Aryan people who ended up mixing with the locals. Then, of course, the big seafaring powers showed up, the Phoenicians, hunting for gold and silver, and later the Carthaginians, who used the peninsula as a launching pad for their epic showdown with Rome. I just love this little story from our source. It's so perfect, right? It totally captures how unique and ancient the Basque people are. Their language has no known relatives. It's a living piece of a Europe that existed before the Romans, before even the Celts. It's a powerful reminder of the deep, deep roots on this peninsula.
Okay, so the next huge transformation happens when the Romans show up. After they kicked out the Carthaginians, their influence became, well, profound. But they wouldn't be the last, because they were eventually replaced by a new power sweeping down from the north, the Goths.
And this is absolutely crucial. Rome's conquest wasn't just about armies. It was a cultural takeover. For 400 years, they completely remade the peninsula. Iberia became Hispania. Sure, they built the roads and the cities, but the most important thing they left behind was the very bedrock of Spanish identity. A language based on Latin, a system of Roman laws, and a shared culture that tied the whole place together like never before.
And here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. When the Roman Empire started to crumble and the Visigoths moved in, they didn't just want to burn it all down. Listen to their king, Ataulfus. He said his goal was to use their Gothic strength to renew Rome's fame. They actually admired Roman civilization and wanted to preserve it, which created this really unique blend of Germanic rule and Roman culture. But that Visigoth kingdom was about to face a challenge that would completely redefine the peninsula for the next 700 years. The arrival of a new force from North Africa was going to split Spain in two, creating this incredible dynamic of war and coexistence that would forge its destiny.
Okay, this year right here, 711 AD. You got to lock this one in your memory. This is when Moorish armies crossed the Strait of Gibraltar. And it's one of the most dramatic turning points, not just for Spain, but for all of European history. Just like that, the Visigoth kingdom was gone and a whole new era had begun.
So for the next 700 years, you've basically got two completely different worlds on one peninsula. In the south, you had the brilliant Islamic civilization of Al-Andalus. It was wealthy, it was sophisticated, a global hub for learning. And then, way up in the rugged mountains of the north, this tiny, defiant Christian kingdom held on, which our source calls the rough cradle of a Spanish nationality. This is where the long, long fight to retake the peninsula, the Reconquista, was born.
I mean, just think about the city of Cordova at this time. While a lot of Europe was in what we call the Dark Ages, Cordova was a beacon, a city with a library of hundreds of thousands of books, advanced science, breathtaking architecture. It was, without a doubt, the most advanced city on the continent. This was way more than just a conquest. It was the arrival of a truly vibrant and powerful civilization.
And all of that sets the stage for what is maybe the defining chapter of medieval Spain, the Reconquista. Now, this wasn't one single war. It was the slow, grinding, 700-year-long campaign by those northern Christian kingdoms to push the Moors out. It was in this very struggle that the modern Spanish nation was really forged, creating this fierce, crusading identity that it would soon export to the rest of the world.
And this timeline just shows you what an unbelievably long, multi-generational effort this was. It starts with this tiny victory way back in 722, which ignites that first spark. Then centuries, literally centuries go by. In 1085, they retake the key city of Toledo. Then another huge battle in 1212 really breaks the back of Moorish military power. But the key moment for unification, that doesn't happen until 1469, and that sets up the grand finale.
This marriage, this was the ultimate political power move. It brought together Castile and Aragon, the two Christian heavyweights, creating a single, unified front for the very first time. Consolidating all that power was the last piece of the puzzle they needed to finish the Reconquista.
Which brings us to this one single, incredible year, 1492. In 1492, the forces of Ferdinand and Isabella finally conquer Granada, the very last Moorish kingdom on the peninsula. The Reconquista is over. But 1492 wasn't just about an ending, because in that exact same year, Queen Isabella funded a voyage that would kickstart something totally new.
So, with the peninsula finally united under one rule, you've got this nation that's been forged in 700 years of warfare. All that energy, all that ambition, it had to go somewhere, right? Well, it exploded outward, and almost overnight, Spain went from a regional power fighting an internal war to the world's very first global empire.
And at the heart of this huge shift is Queen Isabella. She's the real visionary here. Ferdinand was pretty skeptical, but she was the one who saw the potential in Columbus's crazy plan. And with these powerful words, "The enterprise is mine," she personally backed the journey that would, by chance, run into the Americas and unleash a torrent of wealth that was just unimaginable back to Spain.
And what's just mind-boggling is how fast this happened. Within a single generation, under Isabella's grandson, Charles V, the sheer scale of the Spanish Empire was staggering. He ruled Spain, chunks of Italy, the Netherlands, Germany, and huge new territories in the Americas. His was truly an empire on which the sun never set. For a good while, Spain was, without question, the most powerful nation on the planet.
But, as we all know, no empire lasts forever. After this unbelievable, meteoric rise, Spain's power began a long, slow decline. And ironically, the very things that had made it so great, that incredible wealth, and all that constant warfare, also contained the seeds of its own downfall.
If you had to pick one moment, one major turning point, a lot of historians would point you to 1588. The destruction of the supposedly invincible Armada by England wasn't just a military defeat, it was a huge psychological blow. It shattered that myth of Spanish power at sea and was a clear signal that new challengers, like England, were on the rise.
And you can really see the empire starting to chip away after that. Under the kings who followed the Golden Age, the empire just shrinks. The Netherlands breaks away for good, Portugal gets its independence back, and they start losing key territories to rivals like France. It wasn't a sudden collapse, but a slow, relentless contraction.
But here's the thing. Our guide from 1906, Parmy, she has this totally different and really thought-provoking final take. She argues that Spain's real golden age wasn't when it was dripping in gold and had this massive empire. No, for her, Spain's greatest glory was in the centuries before Columbus and the sheer, rugged determination of a people who fought for 700 years just to keep their identity alive in the mountains. The struggle, she says, not the prize, is what truly made them great.
And so that's the question I really want to leave you with. Something inspired directly by her perspective. If a nation's greatness isn't measured by the height of its power, but by the resilience it shows during its hardest struggles, well, how does that change the way we look at the story of Spain? And for that matter, how does it change how we look at history itself? Something to chew on. Thanks so much for tuning in.